You stay until the end of this video. A few years from now, when you look back, you may realize this was one of the rare moments that quietly changed the trajectory of your life. Not because watching this will magically make you rich overnight, but because from today, you will see a hard truth more clearly. If you want to live securely and abundantly in a brutally competitive era, you have to grow up in a way that looks nothing like what your school BIFUs promised. Maturity is not an extra birthday, an extra job title, or another certificate on the wall. Maturity begins the moment you really see how the game is played. Who holds the knife? Who lies on the chopping block? Who is pulling the strings? And who is just the good person being used while still believing they are doing the right thing? As children, we were told, just be good, be obedient, study hard, and life will sort itself out. Only when you step out of your parents' house do you discover there is no one standing at the doorway of life handing out rewards for well-behaved kids. Rent, food, debt, money sent home to your family. No bill accepts being understanding as a payment method. Life does not measure you by how polite or sweet you are. It asks one cold question: are you capable of feeding yourself, protecting yourself, and taking responsibility for the choices you make? People like to tie age to maturity. 18 means you are an adult. At 22 you graduate. At 30 you must be settled. At 40 you must be solid. But you know very well, there are 30-year-olds still living like frightened children, firing off resumes like flyers, terrified of rejection, terrified of being judged, too scared to start over. At the same time, there are 18-year-olds already out on the streets earning money, carrying family debt, swallowing insults to their face, and seeing the world through a completely different pair of eyes. Time alone does not create maturity. It only gives you chances. Whether you grow or not is decided by the shocks you dare to walk through. You will never truly understand sacrifice until that night you stay awake just to take care of someone else, when nobody ordered you to, but you simply cannot walk away. You will not grasp the full weight of money until you stand at a crossroads and have to choose between paying your parents' hospital bill or paying your own rent to keep a roof over your head. You will not really cherish the person next to you until the day they turn away, leaving behind a cold, echoing space you cannot fill. Every mental collapse, every time you are thrown out of your comfort zone and forced to rebuild, is when your mind is reconstructed from scratch. No wounds, no growth. The dangerous part is this: society loves to praise a certain type of person. So mature, so calm, so understanding, so grown up for their age. From childhood, these kids learn to read faces before they read books. They can tell when their parents are tense, when the teacher is annoyed, when the boss favors someone, and they constantly adjust themselves to cause as little trouble as possible. Over time, they perfect what looks like a virtue, the instinct to keep everyone else comfortable. In exchange, they quietly lose sight of their own feelings. These so-called early mature people are often deeply afraid of conflict. The idea that someone might be displeased with them makes their skin crawl. So they choose silence, choose to bend, choose to take the short end of the stick. "It's okay, don't worry about it," comes out of their mouths so often that even they cannot tell when they are fine and when they are lying to themselves. They can dissect other people's love lives with surgical logic, but when it comes to their own, they cannot bring themselves to start a conversation, confess their feelings, or walk away from something rotten, simply because one rejection might shatter the good, agreeable person image they have spent years maintaining. That is not maturity, that is a self-made prison. On the other side, there are people who look clumsy, thick-skinned, less sensitive. They dare to love the wrong person, dare to take reckless chances, dare to apply for jobs they are not fully qualified for, dare to try a new path while others laugh at them for dreaming. They do not devote endless nights to philosophizing about life. They step in, they stumble, they get rejected, then they stand back up. They may not speak beautifully or look profound, but when it is time to decide, they act. It is the scars from real experience, not sleepless nights of overthinking, that build real mental muscle. Clarity that stays locked in your head, without ever becoming action, quickly turns into a curse. The more you think, the more dangerous every path looks, the more terrifying every choice becomes. You start to see everyone as suspicious, the future as fog, and in the end the safest solution seems to be not moving at all. You tell yourself you understand life, when in reality you only understand a few clever sentences, not the price that must be paid. A child boxed into rigid rules too early can recite every regulation. But throw them into real life and they are still confused, scared, unable to decide. That is not wisdom, just immaturity dressed up in thoughtful words. Maturity is not obedience, not silent endurance, not always being neat and proper. Maturity is when you build your own value system, know what genuinely matters to you, and stop living like a mirror reflecting other people's moods. Maturity is when you can choose your battles, know when to stand up, when to stay quiet, when to say no, when to walk away, when to accept I was wrong, and when to start again from zero. In a world that shifts every single day, real strength is not keeping everything the same, but adapting without losing the core of who you are. Many people confuse endurance with strength. They cling to a dead-end path and call it perseverance. They stay in a toxic relationship and call it loyalty or being a decent person. They refuse to change careers because I've already spent this many years on it. They refuse to leave someone because we've already been together this long. They worship what they have invested, instead of looking at what they are actually receiving now. Sometimes, maturity is as simple as cutting your losses, admitting that the years behind you were tuition, not justification to throw away the next decade in the exact same way. One of the clearest signs of immaturity is chronic procrastination. Not today, maybe tomorrow, not this year, maybe when I am more stable. I will love seriously when everything is secure. They wait for a perfect moment that never arrives, while time never waits for them. Good jobs, rare opportunities, the right people, none of them stand still for someone who is still hesitating. By the time they finally step forward, many doors have already closed, leaving behind that burning question, if only I had dared a little sooner. Life is not a restaurant where someone brings your dish to the table. It is more like a chaotic kitchen. Only those who are willing to roll up their sleeves, tolerate heat, and smell of oil, end up with something to place in front of themselves. Those who stand outside, waiting for others to serve them, eventually realize that what they get is the leftovers, the bones, the scraps. This world has limited resources. There are fewer seats than people wanting to sit. There is no reward reserved for those whose only talent is never upsetting anyone. One sweet trap many fall for is the label, good person. You are praised for being considerate, always ready to help, never calculating, never refusing. The praise makes you feel valuable, so you give more, invest more, you lend money with no paper trail. You take on other people's work when yours is already overflowing. You apologize even when you are not at fault, just to keep the peace. The more you bend, the more exhausted you become, and the more others treat your efforts as nothing out of the ordinary. In almost every relationship, the one who gives more is not necessarily nobler. They are usually in the weaker position, not because giving is wrong, but because most people give with an expectation of being met halfway. When that does not happen, they feel betrayed. They do not dare to walk away because they keep thinking of how much they have already invested. They bind themselves with their own kindness. The other party is different. They do not lose much by leaving, because from the beginning, they never put as much into it as you imagined. There is a cruel, emotional formula at work. If you give someone 10 units of effort every day, and one day you can only give 5, they will feel let down, complain that you are not like before. But if you used to give only 1 unit, and on a special day, give 10, they will remember it for a long time and call it generosity. People rarely measure what they receive in absolute terms. They measure the change. That is why kindness without limits, without rules, so easily turns you into a public service machine, not a person of value. Helping is noble, but not everyone deserves your help. Some people lack money but not willpower. You pull them up once, they stand on their own and keep moving. Others are poor because their thinking is broken, because they are lazy, because they are greedy and always blaming others. The more you help, the more they lean on you, treat you as a permanent safety net. The day you cannot carry them anymore, they turn around, resentful, as if you are the one who has wronged them. Misplaced kindness always comes back to cut you. In a highly competitive society, many people view your kindness not with gratitude, but with calculation. They see you as easy to bind, easy to guilt, easy to exploit. They call you a good person, not to lift you up, but to keep you in the role of provider, never as an equal. If you do not know how to stop, do not know how to say no, do not know how to draw a clear line. You will be drained dry of money, time, and emotional resilience. A truly good person is not endlessly soft, endlessly silent, endlessly accommodating. They know how to say no when necessary. They have rules. They do not lend more than they can afford to lose. They do not stay in one-way relationships built entirely on their sacrifices. They help within what they can handle, but they do not throw away their own future for a few pretty words of thanks. They understand that to be genuinely kind to others, they must first be fair to themselves. If you have lived your life trying to please everyone, giving until you no longer know what you yourself need, this is the moment to stop and look yourself in the eye. Ask whether what you are doing comes from your values, or from fear of being disliked and abandoned. If you have been used, betrayed, or dismissed despite pouring your best into people, treat that as tuition, painful, but it buys you a skill no school teaches: the ability to say no. This world does not pay salaries for naivety. It only compensates competence, courage, and adaptability. Growing up means letting go of the fantasy that someone will show up at the right time to rescue you. Growing up is learning to read the contract before you sign, to manage your money, to read people, to stand back up after life has shoved your face into the mud. Growing up is accepting that you have a dark side too. You can be selfish and tired, but instead of hiding that, you learn to manage it so it does not drive your life into worse places. If by now there is a chill running down your spine, that is a good sign. The beliefs you have always held about kindness, sacrifice, and living for others are beginning to shake. It is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is the doorway to a new version of you. When you stop dreaming of a world that is always fair and grateful, you can finally start building a life that is genuinely safe for you, emotionally and financially. No one can grow up on your behalf. No one can hurt in your place. No one is obligated to understand every silent effort you make, except you. But if, from today, you are willing to face the truth, redraw your boundaries, and stop living as a perfect good person, then each cold but correct decision you make will become the foundation of a future that is steadier and freer. By then, maturity will no longer be a label others stick on you. It will be a quiet kind of peace only you can feel. When you look back at the road full of scars behind you and realize just how worth it has been,